Well, we want to welcome everybody back. Hope you had great discussions. Within a week, we'll have these on YouTube, and with that, we'll have also there the PowerPoint for this. So if you want to get those slides, you can get them there, or you could email me, mike@ascendingleaders.org. But we could have said so much more about this, but we wanted to keep this short. So we just want to give you a quick Q&A now in case you have any questions that you might want something amplified. And we have those that are on computers. If anybody has a question from there, you could text it to 832-971. Get a pen, 832-971-3829 right now, and we'll answer that. Otherwise, we've got people here live who might have questions as well. Does anybody have any questions about the 4 stages of spiritual growth and what people are like at each stage, and then what it's like to build a clear path in a congregation for people so that you can get more people moving on those stages? Any questions? Yes? Great, good question. The question is, how do you build that map? How do you suggest doing that in a congregation, that boulders and rocks and pebbles? I'll tell you how one pastor did it, and I think it was a great way. He called together some leaders from his church and asked others they wanted to come, and about 20 people came, and he had them sit at 4 tables, 5 around each table, and they had big charts, and he said, okay, and they had a list of the ministries of their church and the programs. He said, around your table, you figure out what are our current boulders, rocks, and pebbles. And so each table took some time to do that, and then they all reported out. It was interesting because, as you'd think, they were very similar, but there were some differences. Like one ministry, one group said it was a pebble. Another group said it was a boulder. So they talked about what it was. It was a boulder or a pebble, or maybe it should have been a rock. So you're being descriptive. You're saying, what are we like now? And then out of that, they said, they kind of agreed upon, okay, this is who we are. But then you can say, are there some gaps here? Or are there some ministries that could be more effective? And you can say, what do we want to add? What do we need to add here to this? So that could be a really, really good way to start. Start with descriptive and then be prescriptive. So that when I showed you from that large church, that was actually their prescriptive one. They had done a descriptive, and now they had adjusted it quite a bit to make it prescriptive. Great question. How do you do that in a local church? It's a great exercise to do, to start figuring out how can we get more people moving. Good. Any other questions? Here's a good question that just was texted in. How do you find resources for the later stages if you do not have them? I've written a number of resources that Ascending Leaders publishes. We've got Christ Habits workbooks that are about the spiritual disciplines, which are great for the later stages. Another is some that are about the fruit of the Spirit, some workbooks, and you can find those on ascendingleaders.org. But that's not the only place. There are other resources out there. I would encourage you to look for resources that is not your average small group material, but look for things that are going to really focus on people getting more intimate, focus on people wrestling with God, focus on going deeper on the inside. Often what can help also is doing it in smaller groups, doing it in groups of 3 or 4 or 2. This is not materials, but one other pastor and I, what we do is we call it soul mining. And every 3 weeks we call each other. And we say, hey, we're not going to spend a half an hour with chit chat. We just go quite quickly to, after we ask about our families and ministries, we go quite quickly to, so how is it with your soul? And what's causing you anxiety? And what's that about? And where are you not trusting Christ? And how do you need to trust Christ? And so basically, that's not a curriculum, but it's just the 2 of us. We call it soul mining, because in a sense, we are helping each other mine our souls. And that's something good to do in that later stage. Here's another question. How do you help those who don't know they are stuck? That is a tough one. How do you help people who don't know they are stuck? It's not easy. One of the ways you can help them is by expressing what life can be like, showing how much better life can be like when you're not stuck, and inviting people into that. Often, I find preaching plays that role of saying, if you're stuck here, and often when I preach, I'll describe a couple of those, especially that second one, because a lot of people are stuck there. If you're stuck and you see grace, which is great, as God has graciously saved you from your sins, there's so much more to it. Wouldn't you like to live at more peace? Wouldn't you like to love Jesus more deeply? Wouldn't you like to be less impatient? And describe what it could be like. And not everybody is going to move forward with that, but that is one way, is try to describe a better future. Very good question. Any others? Just ask one other question, and that is, there are so many people who are stuck at stage 2. And really, one of our things as a church that needs to be, how do we help people move from stage 2, get moving from there towards stage 3? And a lot of stage 2 is we're stuck in our heads. We're stuck in stage 2 is if we're overly concerned about what it's like in our heads and not as much about our feelings and our experiencing a deeper relationship with Christ. If we're experiencing a lot of judgmentalism or a lot of not being graceful with people, that's a lot of a sign of stage 2. And we need to help more people move. Now, some people are just going to stubbornly stay there, but we need to help more people get moving into stage 3. And so that's just a challenge I want to leave you with as churches. If we could get more people moving from stage 2 into stage 3, from that, I'm a friend of Jesus, I know him, I'm working on getting to know him better, to that more of a heart of I've wrestled with the ambiguities, and even though I don't understand everything, I'm going more intimate and deeper with Jesus. I was going to conclude, but there's one more question here. This will be our last question. What are some healthy indicators that discipleship is happening in a church? That's a great question. What are some healthy indicators that discipleship is happening in a church? One of them can be hearing stories of people moving. People saying, I'm a different person than I was 2 years ago. Or even people saying, that person, they're different than they were a couple years ago. I've seen that happen in churches. Sometimes we participate in church and we don't expect anybody to change. But rather, you start seeing people change. You see people being able to be more gracious towards others, less judgmental towards others. You see people coming in the church who didn't know Jesus, who are coming to know Jesus. You see people who are going into that 4th stage. But one is the kind of stories you hear. Do you hear stories of change? Stories of people going deeper. Another can even be the conflict in the church. A lot of churches have a lot of conflict, and a lot of that conflict is a sign of people stuck at stage 2. We can't disagree without attacking each other. So that could be a sign. If you say, there's less conflict in our church, it could be because more people are moving forward in their spiritual growth. That affects the life of a church. That's just a few of them. There's many more, but you will see it in the way people involve themselves in the life of the church. It's not just that they will be busy with a lot more things. That's a lot of what happens at stage 2. Some people are less busy in stage 3 and 4, but they're more focused. So I appreciate you being here for these talks and you listening to these talks, and just pray that it's given you a lot. I hope you could tell that I think this is important, and we need to be talking about this in churches, about how do we help people grow deeper with Jesus. How do we help people keep growing across those stages, one step at a time, taking your next step in your relationship with Jesus? Thank you all. Take care.